What's going on, collectibles friends? We are back for another video. Thanks very much for joining me here today. We just crossed over 1,000 subscribers here over the last week. Thank you very much.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
For making all of that happen. We're going to continue to grow, hopefully, thanks to you all. So today, we've got some pretty big news and probably some triggering news for a lot of you, frankly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's probably going to be a little bit triggering. I'm just going to say it. In 10 years, 90%, I think it's plus, 90% plus of key comic books, that's the important ones, will be in either a CGC or, are you ready for this? A PSA slab. PSA doesn't slab comic books. They don't grade comic books or authenticate that stuff. I will tell you why I think that'll be the case in a few minutes. But first, we have a $6 million sale, all-time high for a comic book, Action Comics #1 in a CGC 8.5. There's one other 8.5 and there's 2 9s out there. And that's the thing, that's the tricky thing. I think the one thing to think about when it comes to the really, really high end, the big money that wants this stuff, is they want the best of the best. And this is very, very close to it. I think someone buying this might be thinking, you know what? It's kind of like the 52 Topps Manals. There's 3 PSA 10s and they haven't sold for decades. So, for somebody out there, they might just be thinking, hey, look, this 8.5 might be the only one I see for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, because there just aren't many. And that's what drives the price, obviously, for this. I saw some predictions. Some people thought this thing was going to get up to $7, $8, $10 million. Some people thought it would be closer to kind of where it landed. But it's not a surprise to me why it didn't go for $10 million in this economy where you can get 5%. If you're a high-end, high net worth person, if you are a high net worth person, you can literally just throw your money into a money market account and get about 5% for doing absolutely nothing and taking on very little risk at all. So, the thought that people are spending huge on collectibles, it's not the greatest market for it. I know some people will say like, oh man, economy's fantastic and this, that, and whatever, but I hear you, it's still fairly strong. The numbers will tell you that. But with us being in a higher interest rate environment, it doesn't as much make sense for collectibles. It makes a lot more sense to put money into CDs and the stuff that never got you any money. And the federal fund rate was negative for 15 years or whatever it was, 10, 15 years. So anyway, we won't talk economics the whole time, but this is a really, really strong sale. This is a really strong sale. And if one of those 9.0s pops out, then we're going to see an even stronger one, because that's where it gets serious, because it is the best available copy. And these high net worth folks, they want the best of the best. They don't want, the 8.5 is fantastic for this Action Comics 1. Obviously, it's fantastic. But if the 9 comes out and they spent money on the 8.5, they're going to be like, man, I wanted that 9. They always want more. They always want the bigger, the better thing. That's how the very high end in the collectible space works. And so we will have to see. Amazing sale though for Heritage Auctions. It's incredible. And we have seen actually between Heritage and a lot of the other auction houses, there's been some big dog comic books that have come out recently, and not just comic books, but collectibles as a whole have hit the market, which makes me kind of wonder, why is that happening? It's like, what do they know that we don't know? Do they not care about the stuff? Are they looking into other things? Like, what's the story there? I really wonder. Or maybe that, look, they just bought these things 10 years ago for nothing, and now they're worth a lot, and they're just like, let's just offload it. It's a good time to sell, and maybe that's why. I'm not sure, but have you noticed that? Where there's just a hell of a lot of big-time books that are coming out of the woodwork to hit auction? Anyway, all right, we are going to now feed into the next part of the video, and it is that 90+% of all the comic books, I know the people that are going to dive into the comments, comic books are for reading. Don't you dare encapsulate them in that prison, And this kind of reminds me a little bit of, the invention of the car. Oh, people are going to be so mad at me. The invention of the car and the horse and buggy people being like, oh, loser, you can try to bring out your automobile, but we have these beautiful horses and we've built these carriages out of mahogany. Look at the wheels on these things. Haha, losers, bring out your automobile and we'll see what happens. And that's kind of where I feel like we're at with this in a way. I know a lot of people will say, how dare you? How dare you? How dare I compare the invention of the automobile to third-party grading. Sure, you're right. It probably was a little bit of a stretch, but hey, we're here for entertainment, right? But I think the main point drives home. It's just that, look, there is no shortage of demand for third-party graded books. And what I'm really talking about here are key comics. So I'm not saying 90% of all comics. I'm saying 90% of all the key comics that are in the top 10 charts that you keep seeing everywhere. All of that stuff, and even the minor keys, you know, all the minor keys, the minor league keys, single A, double A, triple A, minor league keys, I think they're going to get slabbed up because there is a whole market that has exploded here over the last 5 years. CGC and probably CBCS as well have graded more books in the last 5 years than they probably did their entire history previously. It is happening. It's happening. I've talked about it in other videos. We are in the midst of the gigantic grading boom. And maybe it stops, maybe it slows down, but whether we like it, don't like it, whatever the case may be, it is here to stay for a while. Demand is high. It's like there's certain things that I think are stupid and I don't understand. Why do people buy this? Why? I don't understand. Well, people are buying it. Demand is high for it, so people are buying it. Why are people packing into Disney World? Why is it $150 a ticket to now get into Disney World? It's because demand is high, because they're selling out, because people are going there and they want to ride the rides, they want to do all this stuff, and they're going to sit out in the sun, they're going to have $11 beers, and they're going to pay $200 to get in, a $12 cheeseburger, and all that, and buy the Mickey Mouse hat. You know, people want to buy it. Third-party grading is in high demand. Recently, I've been in the market. Actually, this morning, I was very, very, very close, and I still might. I just don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm all over the place. Amazing Spider-Man #1. So for me, this is a huge, huge book. I'm not a huge comic book speculator, investor, buyer, whatever, collector. I'm not. I've got about 40 to 50 slabs. So I don't have 3 slabs, and they're not all $5 books, but I don't have some massive 6-figure comic book collection. But Amazing Spider-Man 1 is one of those that's really on the list for me. If the prices kind of came down to a place where I could get in on one. Low grade, this is a 2.5, and it's kind of within range. Oh, but the thing that still just kills me, and again, I've been making videos on this over the last few weeks, and I just keep on seeing more and more and more of these, and I can't help but just feel, because I do a lot in the trading card space. In the trading card space, PSA and all the grading companies, the big 4 grading companies, they're grading 15 plus million cards a year. And I feel like they're ahead of comic books. But comic books they're a little bit behind as far as just kind of how much has been graded and the amount of companies involved. Really, in sports cards, you've got 4 major companies that are grading cards. In comic books, you've got 2, but CGC is way, way ahead of CBCS. So, I don't know. I just think that comic books are lagging a little bit behind. A lot of the main key books came out of the 60s and 70s, if we're talking about Silver Age keys, and that's a lot of what's being bought and transacted, a lot of money in that. I know there's a lot of Golden Age as well. That's huge money. I get that. I'm kind of putting that aside. I understand there's limited Golden Age books and all of that, so you don't have to talk me into that. But Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age, you know, the Silver Age stuff, all that stuff from 1962 going out to, you know, the 80s, there's quite a bit of it, and my God, every time I'm on Instagram or Twitter or everywhere, I keep on seeing like, oh, big find. I swear every single day there's a find, or not even a find, but just I'm noticing more all the ungraded books. It's kind of like when you first buy a car that you hadn't always bought. Maybe you buy I'm going to throw out a car. I don't own one of these, a Hyundai, whatever. Tiburon, is that a car? And then you own a Hyundai, and all of a sudden you notice all the other Hyundais when you didn't notice them before. I feel like this is what it is. Ever since I'm kind of like, okay, I'm shopping around, I'm looking at certain books, then I see all the ungraded copies that are just sitting out there, you know, for sale, and I'm thinking like, I am literally going to buy this, and in 5-10 years, the census is going to be double, triple, quadruple what it is today, which is going to affect prices. It's going to move them downward, in my opinion. I understand demand can go up. I get the whole supply-demand thing. I just feel like we don't have the graded supply equilibrium yet for comic books. We still don't even have it for trading cards, which is ahead of comic books. We don't have it yet for a lot of these main key books. So even like this Amazing Spider-Man 2.5, it's a good price. I feel good about it, but it just has me stuck. So anyway, huge comic sale today. Celebration at Heritage Auctions, a $6 million book, including the Buyer's Premium Action Comics 1, the first appearance of Superman. Incredible book. And again, whether we like it or don't like it, 90+% in 10 years, 90+% of your key comic books will be sitting in a slab. It's going to be a PSA slab, or it's going to be a CGC slab, because I think that within the next 10 years, PSA is going to get into the grading space for comic books. They're in Funko Pops, of all things. They're getting into other things. They do photos and they do all these things. It's just a matter of time to me before they dive into the comic book space, and that's going to add a wrinkle that I think is needed for the comic book world. So anyway, let me know your thoughts, friends. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.